Now, there's a whole science about loving things, having an affinity for things you make versus things you find. I'm not going to bore you with that. I want to tell you one story, though, that backs up this research. It's a story, an old story, about a motivational psychologist named Ernest Dichter. Ernest Dichter was hired by a company because this new time-saving product wasn't selling as well as they thought it would sell. Brand new time-saving product called the cake mix. The cake mix came into vogue in the 1940s and 50s, and it was selling well, and then the sales flattened. Get it? Cake sales flattened? I do enjoy myself. And then cake sales flattened, and then after a while, the companies asked Ernest Dichter, what's up with these cake sales? Why aren't they continuing to grow as we thought? Well, what Ernest did was he interviewed housewives who were the primary purchasers of cake mixes at the time. And he asked these housewives, why don't you buy more cake mix? And the answer was very interesting. The answer was that it was too easy. These are not my cakes. When I make a cake mix cake, it's not homemade. It's not made by me. It's not made with love. So Ernest went back to the drawing board. He said, okay, all you have to do is pour the contents in the bowl. You have to add water. You mix. You pour the contents into the pan. You pop it in the oven and bake it. What could we change about that process that would invite more mothers to feel like they made something rather than found something? And what was his conclusion? Add an egg. Add an egg. So now, for the last 50 years, we've been adding eggs to our cake mix. Every time we make a cake out of a box, we have to add 1 or 2 eggs. Not because they couldn't add egg powder, which they had in the mix prior, but because we need to make things. We have a drive to make things. We also have a drive to have ownership and autonomy. So I'll ask you a quick question. By clapping, tell me if you've ever rented a car. Clap. Thank you. Okay, now tell me by clapping if you've ever washed a rental car. All right, so we have these lovely people who have rented cars, and no one, not a single person in this room, has ever washed a rental car. Why don't you wash a rental car? You don't own it. It's not yours. Somebody else will take care of it. I already paid for that. Someone else will do it in my stead. That's a renter's approach. And if we have a renter's approach to our jobs, we'll never love our jobs. If we don't make our jobs our own, we'll never take care of them in a way that we can love them. Now's the part of the talk where I'm supposed to inspire you, okay? I'm supposed to tell you this story about how I left my job as a tenured professor to make a bigger difference in people's lives. Wait, I still lose my breath when I say that. Okay, I left my job as a tenured professor to make a bigger difference in people's lives. And it's a great story, but we just don't have time. All right? I should tell you about Joseph Campbell and quote him, this wonderful quote, follow your bliss, and the universe will open doors where there are only walls. That's a great quote. I should cite Steve Jobs in his Stanford commencement speech. Find what you love. Find what you love. But I'm not going to quote either of those guys, okay? Because what people who love their jobs tell us is that that advice, while popular, is misleading. It's misleading. So take the Confucian saying, choose a job you love and you will never work a day in your life. Sounds like something that an unemployed philosopher would say. Okay? Choose a job you love. Choose a job you love. It makes it sound like they're just showrooms full of jobs that you would love, and all you have to do is walk in and pick that job, and your life will be much better. But what we know from people who love their jobs is that they take this job that's pretty good and they turn it into something amazing. There's also this